Today on the Retirement Spy Studio, we're going to talk about making fire hydrants to making music in retirement and motivations to enter retirement sooner than later. Stay tuned. Welcome to the Retirement Spy Studio, where we share experiences and a collaborative platform for those entering phase 2 of life and are ready to embrace this chapter with gusto and an attitude of carpe diem. You can find out more about us at www.theretirementspy.com or send us ideas and topics to hello@theretirementspy.com. Today, we're pleased to have my friend Evan Hart. Evan and I connected through our favorite nonprofit, Chris 180. We're really talking today about going from making fire hydrants to making music. Evan, tell me a little bit about your background in corporate America and how that's led to where you are today as a musician.
Well, great. It's certainly a pleasure to be with you here today, Duncan. Appreciate this opportunity. I grew up just outside of Birmingham, a little small town, and got into music early and studied classical piano for about 10 years growing up. But when I got to college, I decided on a more practical route and graduated with a degree in accounting and economics, where I started a 30-year career in business. Our house, public accounting firm initially, and then the decade of the 90s at Georgia Pacific Corporation, pulp and paper industry, and then retired as Chief Financial Officer of Mueller Water Products. And as you mentioned, fire hydrants, Mueller Water Products manufactures and markets products used in clean drinking water transmission systems. And the big show there is 1 out of every 2 fire hydrants in the United States is a Mueller. So ended with about 30 years in finance and enjoyed that career, but then have since transitioned into the music world.
By the way, many of my dogs thank you for contributing to their rest stops along the neighborhood.
Yeah, certainly. And as you know, everyone should check out fire hydrants along the way and see that 1 out of every 2 is a Mueller, and certainly a great product. But yeah, dogs love them for sure.
So tell me about your evolving into music. Certainly you've had music growing up, but was this something on the musical side that you did while you were still working in corporate America, or this was something you picked up heavier when you were in retirement?
Well, initially, in about the first 20 years of my corporate world, I stepped away almost entirely from music. I mean, I continued to practice a bit and do a few things here and there, but really got away from it. But I always had it in the back of my mind that I wanted to kind of restart and do a bit more with it. At times, it was almost like what if I had pursued music in college and maybe moved to Nashville to become a keyboard player, songwriter, music producer. So I always wondered about that, but kind of kept my head down through my business career. The last decade or so of corporate world, I did do a bit of playing, and one of the accomplishments there was I was able to play at the Bluebird Cafe in Nashville when I was doing more of a kind of a modern pop with a hint of country, with a young lady by the name of Kelly Boyce. And so we were able to do Bluebird and play a few shows, but it was more on a limited basis than what I'm doing now. It was just really more live performances as opposed to a lot of recording.
You know, it's amazing because when you think of the art of music and your background in finance and accounting, it's left brain and right brain. How do those intersect in a world of corporate America? And better yet, how did it translate from corporate America into retirement?
Well, they are dissimilar in some ways. Music, a lot of creativity. But I think my approach to piano, keyboard growing up was just a lot of discipline, a lot of hard work, a lot of practice. And so some of the same kind of principles that I used in accounting, I kind of took to the keyboard as well. And so it was really over time, I think that practice and discipline just, kind of commingled and was almost the same, kind of approach. And then, like I said, as I wrapped up my business career, I was thinking, okay, what will I do in retirement? And certainly number one was producing music.
Did you have any friends or family that were in the music business that was a natural propulsion into that? Or was it just something that really you had a passion for as you were young and you did it on your own?
It really was just something I did on my own. Just had a passion, all through life. Really, my parents, both educators, were able to retire when they were 50. And so I knew I wanted to retire more of the early side. So I retired in late 2017. Also at that same time, I was looking around and one of my mentors stayed in the corporate world a bit longer, but really right at his retirement was diagnosed with cancer. And so I thought, I've got to move on and start pursuing the passion of music and other passions as well, travel and things such as that. But number one in retirement has certainly been, over the last decade, has certainly been music.
Yeah, I compliment you. There are so few examples out there as it relates to what I'd call a healthy retirement. Your parents retired at a young age, and a part of the retirement spy that we're doing is to welcome and encourage people to retire early if they can, because the joy of life is doing what you want to do without the burden of corporate America, the job, the money, and everything that goes with that. So kudos to you to have done it so young. But tell me, going from a 9 to 5, tell me a few of the biggest challenges you faced for those in our audience who are twiddling their thumbs saying, well, I know what I got in corporate America. I know what the 9 to 5 looks like. And then going outside of that is something new and it's scary. Tell me about your transition from corporate America to music, and or just in general in retirement, not necessarily music, and some of the challenges you faced.
Well, certainly after 30 years in accounting finance, it's a big change. You're going from that 40 plus hour a week job, certainly in the accounting world, a lot of monthly closings, a lot of year-end closings, a lot of reportings, very stressful, a lot of deadlines. And so, you really fall into that and you just, work. And then at some point though, I think when you are able to, and from a financial standpoint and just, in all ways, when you're able to retire, you really should do some soul searching, think about that, but also why wait when you can enjoy life in whatever it may be for the individual, whether it be travel, whether that be really pursuing, some sports activities, golf and other things, or some other businesses that you may have thought about through your corporate career. You should do that. You shouldn't wait because you need to look at ways to put energy into those new endeavors and be able to do those as soon as you possibly can.
Did you have a plan in place, or did you have that much forethought that you said, okay, I'm going to retire at X date, I know exactly what I'm going to be, or was there a honeymoon period where you're kind of fumbling around a little bit as you made the transition?
I think I was preparing myself in the final year of my corporate role. I was really preparing myself for retirement and what it would be like, and so I was laying some groundwork with the recording studio and talking with them and what I wanted to accomplish and when I wanted to start. I was also just in all facets really thinking about ways that would be I would be able to step away, feel good about the timing of when I stepped away, and then be able to immediately start working on music and just enjoying that.
It's interesting. I never want to wish ill will on anybody, but you had a motivating factor. You had a colleague who fell upon some hard times and had some illness that really kind of motivated you to say, well, what am I doing here? Correct?
No, that's certainly correct. My colleague was asked by the board of directors of the organization. He was a CEO, was asked to stay 2 or 3 years longer than he was initially planning. And right at that time of his retirement, he was diagnosed with cancer and really was not able to enjoy retirement to any degree at all. And certainly thinking about that and reflecting upon others in that similar situation, and my parents that they retired early and were able to enjoy life and travel and just be together and spend some quality years together. I thought now's the time, and I'm ready to retire.
That's so perfect. Demi, let's get on to a happier subject about your music. What surprised you the most about the music industry once you really started paying attention to it? And you had before you retired, but in retirement, you had more time to spend in it, more time to study it, more time to plan it. What was the most surprising thing once you got into the industry that you weren't expecting?
Well, I think the number one most surprising thing is just the sheer volume of artists. For example, 50,000 songs are released every day in the world. That's 50,000 songs. That's an unbelievable amount. And just thinking about that, the number of individuals who are both bands, artists, and others, how do you kind of come through all of that and get your music heard? And so I think kind of realizing that and trying to look at ways where my music could get out there and be heard by others, I think the challenges of that was probably the most surprising thing.
We're going to have some fun a little bit later in the podcast. We're actually going to hear your music, and I'm excited about that. He has his own Spotify channel, and I'm excited to hear more about the music. But how would you describe, before we listen to it, your musical style and the influences?
Well, I would say, going back, acoustic piano, classical piano was certainly something that kind of formed the foundation for what I do today. I would say my sound, my style is a bit more on the melancholy side, albeit some of the music that I'm producing has nice percussion and is upbeat in a way, but certainly I gravitate toward the melancholy side, whether it be in a minor key, or just the lines, the top lines that I'm playing, the melody lines, will have a little bit of a sad flair to it. And I think that is something that's kind of defined my style.
I love your music. And I know the audience is chomping at the bit. They're saying, Duncan, don't make him describe his music. Just tell him to play it. Can you play us a little bit? And then I've got a ton more questions about your music and the industry.
Well, what I'll do first is I'll just play a little bit of the keyboard, and that really kind of comes around songwriting. And so how do I create songs? And usually that's through improvisation. So I'll come down to the piano, and I'll just start noodling around, and through that I will come up with chord progression and really a melody line and perhaps a counter melody line, and that'll serve as the foundation for song that I'll then take into the studio to actually produce and build out the song. But here's just a little snippet.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
That's absolutely beautiful. Now I'm at a loss for questions. I was listening to the music and I got lost. Great lead in. And I know this question's going to bobble because I don't have a music bone in my body. Tell me, as we're launching into this, what does a typical recording or songwriting day look like for you? You're tickling the keys, and I don't know anything about songwriting or recording, but kind of tell me how you play with what you just did that actually produces an end product.
Yeah, certainly. So come here, do the improvisation, come up with a song, and that will be the chord structure, the rough arrangement, and then the melody line and perhaps other counter melody lines. So then I will take that, go to a studio in Birmingham, the Bates Brothers recording studio, and work with my good friends Eric and Eugene Bates there. I've been working with them for a number of years, and we're really like family. So we'll go in, and I'll kind of play through the rough song, and then we'll determine what tempo should it be and what percussion should be underlying, and then the general nature of the sonic landscape for that song. And we use a product called Ableton, a software product, to do all the recording in. So this studio is a fairly large and prolific studio in Birmingham, and they have all the grand pianos and guitars and drums and basses. But what I'm doing now is more instrumental, down-tempo, chill, deep house music. And so all of that is mostly in the box. So all of the keyboards that I'm using are, for the most part, virtual synths inside a computer that I'll play with keyboard controller, and a lot of the percussion and things are in there as well. And so it's almost like painting, one step at a time. And we'll determine the tempo. We'll then spend a bit of time with the kick drum, the snare drum, hi-hats, all layers of percussion. Then we'll move into all the synthesizers and the different keyboard layers. And ultimately, we may have 60, 70 tracks that go into one song. And those tracks, those 60, 70 tracks, will then be mixed by Eric Bates to a stereo left and right, which will then be sent off to be mastered to kind of like the icing on the cake, kind of looking at the highs, lows, and mids of those two tracks, and that'll be polished up, and then we'll have a finished finished song. One of the most important things is not only the selection of sounds, the selection of the lines that I'm playing, but also deselection. That's just as important as selection, because you want a track to be clean, crisp, and not be cloudy. So if perhaps we'll do 70, 75 tracks in a given song, but then 5 or 6 may need to be pulled out, or just not as important to have a crisp, clean track. I started in retirement with a couple of vocalists and did more modern pop, and did that for a handful of years. And then the last year or so, I've been doing more instrumental, chill music. and really excited about that genre because there's no vocalist to have to work with. There's no lyrics. It's all instrumental, and it's really letting me kind of express my keyboard style into a song and all be in that instrumental vein. And it's something you can just put on. You can have a dinner party. You can just relax. It's not as relaxed as say spa type music. It's not as ramped up as electronic dance music. It's kind of somewhere in the middle. That's just kind of an easy, nice electronic listening.
I think it's outstanding. My wife is such a big fan now. Tell me, I'm an '80s guy, and so I'll use the vernacular that'll be familiar to some of our retirees, but maybe not as much to others. When you have your inspiration, you're headed to Birmingham. It's not just one song; it's some ideas. And when you'd go into a recording studio back in the '80s, you're cutting an LP, long play album, vinyls. For those who don't know what that is. So when you're inspired, are you going in for a song? Are you going in for a series of songs? Because you're not really cutting LPs necessarily anymore. Your inspiration, you're going to Birmingham. Tell me what that process is like. Is it more than one song, and how long are you staying there before you have a finished product?
Well, that's a very good question, but still do LPs. I just received this about a week ago. This is a vinyl for my latest record. It's called Trafford, named after the town where I grew up, and there are 9 songs here that I put together for this vinyl. Now, I released it a bit earlier on all digital streaming platforms, but still, have a vinyl, and those are kind of making a comeback and getting popular again. But when I go into the studio, when I was doing some of the more modern pop songs, I was just releasing those one at a time and really not doing an album or an LP. But when I started the chill, I decided that I would put an album together. When I go to the studio, I may have 5 or 6 ideas in mind, and we'll start kind of working on those maybe simultaneously. But for the most part, we'll be kind of pursuing one track over a handful of days and then moving on to the next track. Ultimately, completing 8 or 9 songs for a collection.
So, how do you get your music out nowadays? Once again, I'm so clueless about the entire industry, and I'm thinking about all my favorite stars I listened to over the years. They produce an album, they go out on tour. You buy the album, at your local store. Now everything's streaming music. Tell me about how you get your music out there. Is it all streaming? Vinyl is coming back. Are you
Right.
playing live? Tell me how your music gets out.
Well, in today's world, really streaming across all digital platforms is the number one way to get your music out. And what I use is a music aggregator called CD Baby. And once you have a song or an album, you upload it to this aggregator, and then they will, verify copyright and other things, and you'll have maybe a bit of art with it. And then that will be released to all streaming platforms, and that would include Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, YouTube, Amazon Music. So a host of platforms that this aggregator pushes out your song to. And then certainly social media is extremely important, whether it be Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, all social media. So that's important too. So there'll be a lot of, I create some art for a song, and then I'll release that, with the songs as well. It's a different world than it was back in the day, where creating an album or CD, artists made a lot of money by the sale of those. But today, it's more on the streaming front, and I think artists from that standpoint don't get paid quite as much as they used to in the past with the sale of CDs and vinyl. So artists today are making the majority of the money through live performance. That's really where the show is for musicians today.
Yeah, it makes all the sense in the world. I'm remembering my first concert back in the 80s, no, 70s, Emerson, Lake and Palmer. And back in those
Yes.
days, a concert would be $50. And I don't know if there's a lot of money. It's mostly in albums is how the musicians made their money. Nowadays, forget about the streaming and the albums. The artists are coming back from the 70s and 80s, and I'm paying $500 or $600 to get a ticket so I can go down a nostalgic path. And it seems like now performance is the way they're making their money. And you see these artists that are, gosh, look at the Stones coming out 70 years old in their 70s and bouncing around on stage and making millions.
No question. I mean, it's incredible what ticket prices have gone to, as well as artists kind of coming back and they realize, this is the opportunity where they can make up, a few $100 million.
So tell me, because I just don't know enough about it, how do you promote the streaming industry? So you want to get your Spotify channel, all your channels where your music, which is wonderful. How do you promote it? How do you grow it? And I'm sure there's remuneration associated with it, but how does that marketing machine happen?
Well, I think the key is, certainly an independent artist like myself, you have to look at, all facets, whether it be social media and every bit of social media, as well as working with some individuals and some firms that can help your songs get on playlist, Spotify playlist or YouTube playlist or channels. And so getting your music out there can really boost the number of streams. On this last album, I have a song called Choices, and was very fortunate to have over 85,000 streams for that one particular song. And then a couple others had around 10,000 streams. So that was both through social media, but also working with some individuals who help you get songs on playlist, and that is very, very important. And then the number of streams, then you're able to do many more things when you have a number of streams. Spotify has certain tools and techniques that can be used if you get over 10,000 streams. So they're looking for artists with the number of streams. It's just it's very challenging as you move forward. I may be looking at kind of an artist manager to help with the song plugging, both to get a song on whether it be Sirius radio or other web radios. That's important too. So I'm going to continue to, over the next few years, to explore the business side much further than I have to date. I've been really focused on the creative side, which is the passion, but also at the same time going to wrap up the business side a bit more.
What a great segue into the question. My mind's always on finance, money, business, because I'm in retirement denial, but I'm getting there. I'm trying to get to retirement. I'm just having a hard time getting there. So how do you, this is for all artists, whether you're a painter, whether you're a musician, how do you balance the creativity and the beauty of what you're creating, Evan, with the business side, the financial side? I mean, the good news is you're not hustling for a living because you're retired. And so you have more of a latitude to kind of be more creative and not worry as much about the money. But how are you balancing that? And where are the pressure points?
Well, I think to date, I have focused much more on the creation and the production and making of songs, and perhaps a bit to the detriment of the business side. So I know going forward, as I was mentioning, that I really want to focus more on that and try to crack the code, if you will, on getting more streams and airplay and getting on Sirius XM, the appropriate channels. So to date, I probably haven't focused on the business side as much as I should have, because I think there needs to be a balance. Certainly, being in the music world or the art world, that probably is the number one most paramount thing for an artist, is to get to create and to have something that they're very proud of, which I certainly am. But then taking that and moving into the business side, I think that's hard for a lot of artists. And I think I need to focus on that a bit more, as well as I think a lot of other independent artists need to continue to focus on that as well.
Kudos to you. My podcast is here to help people get into retirement with some strategies, ideas about how to make that transition from the work world into retirement. And a part of that is highlighting wonderful examples like you and everybody else who's been on my podcast. They've come up with so many hobbies that people may not have thought about as a motivation to get there. So still with my work mind, how do you set a metric for success? And example, in my podcast, how many clicks you like, how many likes, how many people are viewing you? That's very distressing because I'm a numbers guy and I'm trying to not focus on that, because I really just want good content out that if people get it, great. I'm serving the world one person at a time. But my mind says I need to have some metrics that really will help advance me, not financially, but just to get the word out. You're a wonderful artist with a great product. Do you have any metrics that are in the back of your head that are either clicks, it's monetization, it's somebody who just says, gosh, Evan, I had no idea what you're doing. I just downloaded your music and I'm in love with it?
Well, I would say the number one metric would be streams, and I do monitor that. I have some tools that I'm able to look at Spotify and look at streams, where they're coming from, what countries, what cities, and that's probably number one. But really, at the end of the day, for me, when I sit down and listen to a finished song, and I can remember from creation here at the keyboard to building in the studio to final mix and mastering. And when I think through that and I can sit down and listen to the song and say, that represents me, that's something that I've created, I feel proud of, that's rewarding. And really, at the end of the day, that's the number one metric for me. Am I proud of the product that I'm producing?
Do you ever find yourself getting into what I call a dangerous trap, where you've produced a song that you absolutely like, but it doesn't get the streams that you thought, and it sets you back a little bit? I've had podcasts I've recorded. I said, I think everybody's going to really like this. And I just didn't get the response. And you can take it personally, can't you? How do you deal with that?
Well, you certainly can. But at the end of the day, I try to step away and distance myself from just the sheer metrics. I had 30 years dealing with metrics, plenty of that as CFO and controller and treasurer of various companies. And so I've really tried to divorce myself from just looking at metrics. Certainly, I would like more streams. Certainly, I'm now embarking on ways to get more streams and to get the music out to more individuals. But still, at the end of the day, when I look at myself in this vast ocean of artists and musicians, 50,000 songs being released every day, I'm just happy that 10,000 people might have listened to it, or 20,000 people might have listened to a song. Yes, it's not a million, it's not 10 million, it's not a billion as many artists have streams, but some individuals have heard it, and I can feel proud of what I produce.
They say you're making money nowadays when you're out touring or on performance. Question twofold. One, are you outperforming? And does your Spotify or the metrics you're looking at say that you should be performing in the Netherlands, for example? Where's your music most received?
Yes. Yeah. Actually, for me, Indonesia is definitely a hot spot for my music. Certainly, touring would, I think, enhance the number of streams and just getting the music out there. I did a few years back do a bit of live performance, but I haven't really been doing that the last couple of years. I've really been focused on creating music and producing the music. But I'm going to think about that a bit more and see if I decide to restart a bit of live performance. But for me, really, it's more about the creation of the songs, making the songs, and then getting the product out, as opposed to really going in and doing a live performance, which is primarily just me, not a band concept. So it's just me, and so it would be could be a little bit tricky, a little bit difficult from a live standpoint. But I'll continue to think about that as I go forward.
Tell me, for those who are thinking along these lines, once again with the idea of retirement in mind, what advice would you give to someone who's feeling stuck in a career that they've outgrown, who may have a dream? It may not be music, but something else. But from your perspective, what advice would you give to them?
Well, I would first challenge the individual to do deep soul searching and think about where they are and where they would like to head, but not jump immediately, but do a lot of analysis and think about the financial implication, cultural implications, all family implications, all facets. But after that soul searching, if the individual is ready to make the move, then go. Do not wait. Pursue the passion. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Putting energy, effort, and focus into something new, I think, can be very rewarding. So do a little bit of homework, do a little bit of soul searching, get prepared before you make the leap, but then make the leap into whether it be music or another career.
We have some more questions, but I can't hold back any longer. Can we hear some of your music? And maybe because of the time of our podcast, we couldn't hear a full song, but I would love to hear something from you, just so our audience, who's been salivating now through all of this, can get more of some of your great work.
Yes, let me play just a little bit of a song here. So that's a little snippet of one of the songs off my Trafford album.
You said it so well. It's not spa music. It's not that relaxing, but it's also not heavy disc or electro thump music. It's somewhere in between. It's very pleasant. It's not going to put me to sleep. It keeps me invigorated, but puts me in a happy mood. I call it happy vibes, if there's a lack of a better word for it.
No, thanks. I certainly appreciate that. And yes, some of them are a bit on the happier side, but still, what is interesting is even that song. There's some kind of more kind of melancholy undertones, but some of them are very happy, and I think this is, I feel good about this. Is an album that you can put on, as I mentioned, just listen to and feel good.
What is the proudest moment you've had in your music journey so far?
I think the two proudest moments. One, as I mentioned earlier, the Bluebird Cafe, being able to perform there. That's quite an institution in Nashville. And then second would be the 85,000 streams on Choice as one of the songs on the Trafford album. Those are probably the two most, two biggest accomplishments in some ways. But also just here, having a vinyl record for the first time, and just with the body of songs here, feeling really good about these tracks and being proud of those, and just the rewarding experience of the creation process. I think that's another wonderful thing.
Tell me about, I want our audience to find you. I want my audience to buy you. Tell me about your album. Tell me where they find you on streaming music, under what name and what channels, so they can come find you.
Twofold. On Instagram, I have a presence there, a big presence there. Evan Hart _music. So you can find, and there are links to a website, evanhartmusic.com, and then Evan Hart on Spotify and YouTube. There are a couple Evan Harts, but I think if you look for the Trafford record or look for the chill songs, fairly easy to find.
If we wanted to download on iTunes, can we find your music that we can purchase from you?
Yes, you can download, purchase from iTunes. You certainly can save on Spotify as well, or continue to stream there. But yes, you certainly can purchase as well on iTunes.
So as we come to a close, this is a wonderful 3-part question I'm going to ask you, and I'm going to ask you in sequence. What was your first concert? What age were you, and where were you? That's part number 1, by the way.
First concert, the country band Alabama, early 80s in Birmingham, Alabama, at the Birmingham Jefferson Civic Center.
How old were you?
I believe I was around 17, 18. So it was a little later before, because I was real heavy into classical music. So it took a little while for me to start going to more non-classical concerts. I saw the band Alabama right there near their hometown. So that was the first concert.
Second question, what was the best concert you've ever been to?
That is a very difficult, very challenging question. There's been so many, but I would probably say also in Birmingham, on a solo tour, Phil Collins, an incredible concert, a wonderful musician, and an incredible band.
And here's the fun question. You don't have any boundaries here. In other words, what artist have you not seen that you would love to see live? They can be alive or dead. So you can go back and say, here's an artist that's died. I wish I could have seen them. And here's the artist or one I haven't seen yet that's still out there touring I'd like to see. What artist would you like to see, either from the past or current?
When I moved from classical and just started listening to rock, and I do like all genres of music, but one of the early bands was a band Asia, and had Steve Howe, Jeff Downs, Carl Palmer from Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and John Wetton in that band. John Wetton has now passed on, but I was never able to see Asia. But I was a huge Asia fan in the early '80s. They had certainly a big record. Never saw them live. Not sure I had tickets at one point. Various circumstances. Never saw them. But I would love to have seen them in the original lineup.
Evan Hart, we have loved having you today. I've got to put one more plug out for our favorite nonprofit, Chris 180, here in Atlanta, and all the great works that they're doing. We have this in common. But Evan, well, thank you so much for being here today. What a great inspiration for those looking to retirement. Another way that you can go, and some great motivational words about don't wait too long before you go into retirement, because you may not be able to make it to retirement the way you think.
Thank you, Duncan. Really appreciate it.